here. Welcome back to another stream. Today I am gonna tell you, I'm gonna talk to you, I'm gonna ramble to you all about the Layman versus Noble food challenge. So, for those of you who may or may not know, if you don't follow us on Facebook, if you didn't watch the last stream, I sort of mentioned it briefly in the last stream that we was going to do a food challenge, and yesterday was the day that we attempted a food challenge, and I'm going to do like a little bit of an aftermath without trying to. Well, I mean, it's out now. You can watch it if you go over to Facebook and you go over to Leeton. Why it was done on Leeton and not the Layman page, I'm not sure. Personally, for people who essentially just follow what we do and don't really know us, they're not really gonna have like Lee's not like Layman's normal profile as a friend. So unless you physically got either me or him as a friend, it's going to be tricky for you to see the video. Whereas if it had gone on the artist page, it's just an artist page in it for. But anyway, we attempted a food challenge. So I apologise if I sound a little bit not altogether there in this stream. I actually had an accident on my motorcycle today, and I'm in a little bit of pain, which is, I mean, I suppose it's to be expected when when you come off a motorbike, But yeah, basically, I was at work and it's been raining today. And normally when it rains, I don't take my bike out. I'm one of these kind of like, do you know what? Like when it rains or when we've got bad weather, I just leave the bike at home because, like, for one, I just don't like being out in the cold and wet. And second of all, it is a lot more dangerous on the roads when it's wet. However, I had a hospital appointment today, at a hospital called Castle Hill, and the hospital is quite far away from where I work. And getting a bus there is an absolute nightmare. It's an absolute pain. So the plan was always to go on the bike. That was the original plan. And then when I woke up this morning, I looked outside and I thought, it's damp. It's been wet, but I'm gonna have to pull it out. I need to go to the hospital on it today. And then I went outside, and it was raining. And I thought, well, I need to go to the hospital. I haven't got time to wait for buses and then, to get stuck in traffic and buses to stop at all these different bus stops. So I rode the bike to the hospital. Everything fine as dandy. Everything was absolutely wicked. Rode back to work after hospital, and then we were running like an evening session tonight over at another building. And after a certain time, my main building where I work, it gets locked. So if I'd have like left my stuff there and walked over, even though it's only around the corner, I wouldn't have been able to get back in to grab my helmet, my gloves, and then to be able to get the bike. So I thought I'll just ride the bike round. So I leave work, I set off going up the road, and I come towards a junction, and I noticed something in the road at the last minute, like a little rock, like a little stone. It was quite like it wasn't massive, but it was big enough that, like, it's gonna affect you if your wheel hits it. It wasn't just something that little that you'd just run over it, but it wasn't like this giant rock in the road. But I would quite easily say it was probably round about that big. And I'm just sort of, I get on my bike, I'm thinking about where I'm going, I'm just humming away, and then all of a sudden, I'm slowing down for the junction, and I just spot this thing in the road, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to run into that. And I slam on, and just as I slam on, because it's wet, I just lose balance of the bike, and I just slide, and I come off. Luckily, the bike has not suffered really any damage. The only damage it suffered was there was a scrape on the petrol tank, and the scratch on the petrol tank has just been made a little bit worse than it already was. It's a little bit annoying because the scrape's very noticeable, The scrape was always noticeable, but like it's just even more noticeable now. I've injured my knee. I've hurt like the side of my leg, but for some reason, this arm is really sore and it's really achy. And I didn't even fall on this side. That is the mad thing. So I don't know if it was just the way my body threw, if it's just like pulled a muscle or something. But this arm is actually quite sore. So if I sound a little bit, if I'm just aching a bit, like I do apologise. But I got back on the bike. I carried on riding to work. Luckily, there was two people in a van that pulled over, and they luckily knew, they were bikers themselves, and there was a guy on the corner of the street who very kindly came to see if I was all right. And he asked me, if I was all right, and I just said, my leg hurts a bit. Will you help me pick my bike up? So I could assess damage, and then that was when the van pulled up, and they were luckily bikers. So they helped me kind of assess the bike. It started, it was dark at this point. It had got dark, so they put a torch on their phone and sort of assessed the bike, and the guy put it sort of at the side of the road for me, just near the footpath, so it was out of the way. He checked the gears and everything, and then he just asked if I was all right, and did he want me to call an ambulance or anything? Could I stand up, all of that kind of stuff, which I could, but I was in a little bit of pain, like I'd grazed my knee and stuff, but nothing that I thought was mega. So we checked, I was all right. Picked my helmet up because obviously I'd taken my helmet off and just put it down. But when I came off, the visor came unclipped. It like the helmet like bashed the floor and part of the visor came unclipped. But it didn't break. It just unclipped. Luckily, and yeah, it was just one of them. It was just something that was so unexpected and happened so quick. Like I just braked and I probably braked a little too hard. And because it was wet, I lost slip of the bike. So we got back up. I got dusted off. Rode it to work. Got to the work session. Told my work colleague about it, and he was like, look, you should go home, or you should go home. Like, you'll be shaken up. You'll be, stuff like that. And I was like, I'm fine. We're not really doing real hard graft with this session. I'll be all right. He gave me a first aid kit. I put like a bandage on and cleaned myself up. There was, I would say that like I was bleeding, but it wasn't like mega bleeding. It was more like where I just like caved skin off and it had gone more red, but there was like a little bit of blood there. So I just gave it a quick clean up and then put the bandage on and then sort of came back. But the session was very quiet, so it didn't run for the full amount of time. So I ended up still going home early. So I came home. I was a little bit sore and achy. So I got a friend. Well, I got like a flat sort of someone else who lives in this block. If he'd just help me put my bike away, as we've got to like put it down a step and put it into this like little thing, and I was a bit achy, so I didn't feel like I could like just I didn't want to attempt doing it on my own and then risk falling over when I'm a little bit achy and stuff and just not fully there. And I think sometimes you don't know, like you don't always, like sudden injuries, you don't always see them straight away. Like my arm wasn't aching at first, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't want to have like passed out or something. So I thought, if I get help and then come home and rest, that would have been all good. Big shout to Mike. So that's the store. That's the score with the bike. So now we'll get on to the food challenge, the main part, the juicy part of the video. So, if any of you watching this, you don't know who the Layman is, then you've been living under a rock, because this guy, and when I say this guy is a celebrity, he quite literally is a celebrity. So he sort of he was part of the music scene years ago, and he took a break and he came back as a podcaster. He started podcasting and his podcasts were quite controversial. So he would like talk about things in the news, but he'd kind of slate them, and he'd speak from like a woke point of view and a down the rabbit hole point of view. And the podcasts became quite popular, and then he started getting like guest invites to events, and then he'd hit up like guest invites at these events in like nightclubs and things. Um, Before coming back to the music scene as a photographer, as he was getting invited to these events, and then he would take his camera down and take photos, to the point where people would then like want him to basically photographer, and photograph the night. And he became this like photographer, and then he got back into like writing bars and hosting on the mic, and now he's been up and down the country. He's been with some of the biggest and best artists in the rave scene, and everybody in the rave scene knows him. And if he's not at the rave, then the rave is not the rave without him. There's loads of events where if he's sadly been booked somewhere else, there's been like a vibe missing at that said event where he hasn't been. And along the way, we have formed quite a good friendship. So basically, for quite a long time, I've been watching food challenges online. And me and the Layman, we do fun things together. We like to do sketches. We like to have a laugh online. We like to make people laugh. And I've wanted to do a food challenge for a long time. Not really, not just to go in and say, look, I'm going to complete a food challenge, but to also say, like, I've attempted one. Where now Layman has been very not on board with this idea at all for a very, very long time, and he wouldn't go to a restaurant. He basically he just knew his limits. He just thought, I know I can't eat one, I'm not doing one, I don't want to do one, I know I can't do it. And he was basically putting his foot down, and I was like, look, but I just want to say that we've done it. And he was like, no, I can't complete one, I'm not doing one. And in the end, I convinced him to do one. But we did it from my home, so we got the food in ourselves, and we decided to cook the food ourselves. And we said we'd do this burger challenge, and we'd get all this meat, and we'd make all these burgers, and stuff like that, and we'd try and demolish this big burger. Um, so I was like, okay, let's do it. So we advertised it online, a little like versus poster that you'll see on the thumbnail, and basically it blew up on Facebook, as a lot of things that we post does now, and people like to see us doing these funny sketches, and taking the mick out of each other, and having a laugh and having a banter online. So people jump on it like, I want to see this, yes, you've got to do this, and loads of comments. So yesterday we attempted the challenge. We cooked a big 10 pate burger. So there was like one bread bun, and we basically filled it with 10 burgers inside. The thing was like literally, oh god, yeah, the thing was like a massive tower. It was absolutely massive. And then just to make it so it just wasn't like just a burger on its own, we put some chips in at the bottom, knowing full well that like the chips was just, you've got no chance. But we thought, it just makes it look a bit more interesting. And so we had this burger. It wouldn't stand up. It was just that tall. It wanted to fall. We tried putting like little big long wooden cocktail sticks into it, to try and help, sort of give some sort of like sturdiness to the burger. But it was just too. The burger was too big. The patties were too thick. Which I think was, looking back, I think that was a little bit of a mistake on our ends, that we just did it was Layman was the one who did all the cooking, and this is not me slating the cooking, because he made some absolutely beautiful burgers, but I just think that the patties were just maybe a bit too thick, and they should have been flattened down a little bit more than they were. They were more like big. They were more just like big circles of mince, that just really, could have maybe done to have been a little bit flatter. And then we put this cheese on top, which was this mature cheese, and The cheese was so filling in itself because it was the flavour was just so strong, and the cheese was just so strong. It was a really good cheese. It wasn't just like your average cheese that you would get. Like if you were, it one, put it this way, it was like a million times better than getting like a Dairy Lee slice. And at the time, we were like, we're not going to get a stupid Dairy Lee slice or like one of them, 89p fake ass cheese slices like the ones they put inside a Rustler's burger. So we decided to get better and proper cheese, but I think we just went a bit too better and a bit too strong on the flavour. So we put that in. We cooked all these little French fries, and we filmed the food challenge. Now, I don't. I mean, I want people to see the video. That is like the whole point of it was for people to see the video. So I'm not gonna give away who won. But basically, we had 30 minutes to eat the burger, um, and we were only allowed one glass of water each. And the challenge was we both had to try and finish it in half an hour, but that wasn't the only part of the challenge. So like whoever ate more of the burger challenge, like whoever got further. So like whoever ate the most patties, whoever had like the less, whoever had the less food on their plate was the winner. So like if I'd have eaten more than Layman, I'd have beaten him. If he'd have eaten more than me, he would have beaten me. So that was one thing that we were kind of doing. So even though like if we, even if we both didn't eat the whole thing in half an hour, whoever got the closest was the winner of the challenge. In that sense. So we filmed it, and like I say, I'm not going to give away who won, who ate more than who, and go and watch the video on Leeton. I think I'm going to post it on my YouTube channel. I think I'm going to download it and post the video myself because it would be good to get it on all these different platforms. Rather than just on Facebook. But all I'm gonna say is it was eye opening. So because there's people out there, there's professional food eaters that like Beard Meats Food. He goes there, and that challenge would have probably have been easy for him. He probably could have done that. And that's the thing. Like people like them or the guy who you see on Man versus Food. On the TV. And then there's like other people that do these food challenges. Um, they're professional. I mean, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how you train to eat like that much food because some of this stuff, like even just a normal like average guy who likes a big meal, like would struggle at eating that. Like there's something to like completing them. Like I'm not saying like there's a technique and anybody can do it. I think it takes a lot of training, or you've got to I don't know, you've got to shape your body in a certain way to be able to do it. And even the professionals, I've seen them in scenarios where they've struggled. I've seen the beard guy. He's failed challenges. He's not won every challenge he's done. So I think there is a technique to doing it, and there is a way like it doesn't happen overnight. You have to train your body. You have to. I suppose for starters, you've got to try like. I mean, one thing I was doing was I've been trying to eat bigger portions of meals and things. So like if I say go to a cafe or a restaurant and have an all day breakfast, I'd get a large instead of a small or something, and try and eat all of the large, and then still try and eat something later on during the day as well, and and have more like little snacky things and just sort of expanding the belly a bit. And I suppose that is sort of like one way to do it, but there's definitely more to it than just like having bigger meals. So and we only I've only been doing that for like maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I think a lot of people do it for months, and they really train for it, and they probably go to the gym and they get themselves really healthy as well, so they've got enough like strength and stamina to tackle one of these challenges in. Um, so it really opened my eyes, because when you watch them do it on the videos, I mean, for starters, like the videos, you think, "Whoa, that looks a big plate," but the camera doesn't do it justice. And then you watch the guys tackle it, and they seem to eat it really quick, and the time lapse it, and you think, like, actually, this actually doesn't look too bad. But then you sit at a table and you tackle something like that, and then you realise exactly how tiring it is, and how, like, you chewing, how it hurts your mouth, how it hurts your gob. Um, and one thing especially I found doing the burger challenge was there was a lot of the same. You were just eating and eating the same thing, and it was getting really repetitive. Where there wasn't a lot of different, there wasn't a lot of different tastes other than that same meat, and there was a lot of it. And it just felt like you were eating and eating and eating, and you weren't getting anywhere. Even though in hindsight we were making a pathway through this mountain of food, which was crazy. But it was mad. I think it opened my eyes. Like, hats off to people that do these challenges, because I don't know how or where they get their energy, their strength, their stamina to do this kind of thing. But they do it, and that was the mad thing. They do it, and it was crazy. So yeah, it was crazy. But it was really fun to film at the same time. I had a lot of fun. I don't think Layman can say the same thing, because he never really wanted to do a food challenge in the first place. He basically wouldn't really do one, but then he kind of compromised and said, "All right, we're going to do one at home." And I think I think a lot of it, was like how much food would get wasted if we didn't complete it, like in a restaurant. And then I think, being in public and scoffing all that food in, is also another thing, probably to take into account. And then just the sheer fact that he probably thought in his mind, or he knew, or his mind was made up, that he wouldn't be able to complete a food challenge. So he thought, let's do a scaled down food challenge in ourselves, by making the food ourselves. But then we ended up making this burger that was just massive. And I think, in hindsight as well, I think we made it too big. Like, we wanted to do a big burger challenge, but I think, we really went in at the deep end. I think, 5 patties we maybe should have started with instead of 10, as it was like the first ever challenge that we were going to do. But we really went all in. I think 5 patties would have been quite a cool thing, and I think it would have been a good one to do. But like I say, you'll have to watch the video to see how we do, and you can watch the whole thing. And there's some quite funny bits in there as well. Me and Layman, we do comedy. We do comedy online. So a lot of what we do, we don't just like, "Oh, hey guys, today you're gonna watch a food challenge." There's like that Layman and Noble banter in there. So we aren't just taking what well, we're kind of taking, like, all right, other people do food challenges, but we're doing it with our own twist. We're not just sitting down and, "Oh yeah, we're going to tackle this food challenge today." There's all the, like, noble humor and the banter in there, and us kind of like taking the piss out of each other in hindsight. And I'll say something and it'll make Layman laugh, and then he'll comment on it. And there'll be funny things in there, really, really funny things in there. And that is what it's all about. That is what it is all about. So it was really fun to film. We're gonna do more challenges. We're gonna do, like, different types of food now. We've decided, we're gonna tackle some other challenges. We're gonna do them all at home. Although I do want to attempt one in a restaurant at some point, but I think I'm gonna build myself up for that. And doing them at home and stuff like that will probably help, because we'll get used to trying to tackle things. And we're going to do loads of different things. I know it was voted that I was to do a curry one next, and I'm not a big curry eater, So I think people just wanted to see me eat something really hot. And then someone said about doing a donut challenge. I don't really like donuts, but I could eat them at a push. The thing about desserts and like sweet things, like it's not the case isn't always the fact that I don't like them. Like I can sit there and eat like chocolate ice cream. I can sit there and eat a sticky toffee pudding. I can sit there and eat a bowl of custard. I can eat ice cream. Like I could eat ice cream if I really wanted to. The only thing is, it's not like, oh, you'd never get me eating that. I hate it. It's like it's just not something I like. As in, I would go to. Like, if somebody said like, oh, you've got a choice, Noble. You've had your main course. What would you like for pudding? You could have a strawberry yogurt, or you could have a tub of ice cream, or you could have a cheesecake or something with strawberries on top. Like that just wouldn't be my thing because I don't like strawberries and stuff. It's not my thing. But like, it's not something like if I had to eat it, like I would eat it. But that it's not something I'd go to and go, oh, do you know what, mate? I fancy eating I fancy eating a toffee Danish today. Like that's not, I'd eat one at a push, but it's not something I like. To the point where I'd go, oh, I fancy this. So if it came to the point of doing a challenge, like we're going to do a challenge, then I'd do it. I'd eat one just for this. I'd eat them just for the sake of doing a challenge. Whereas things like peas, garden peas, like I despise of them. Like peas and onions are like the two worst things that like I hate them. Like the crazy thing is, like I like cheese and onion crisps, but I hate like if onions are in my gravy on a Sunday roast, no. If onions are in my burgers or hot dogs, it's a no. If onions are like in my spaghetti bolognese or like my lasagnas, it's a no. Like I despise of them. Peas, like I say, peas are worse than onions, but they're like I just wouldn't eat them both. But like if there was really a choice, you have to eat peas or onions, then I would choose the onions at like the last resort because like peas are just oh. But like I hope I never have to eat them both really. In all fairness, so there's stuff like that I just despise of it. Like I just hope I never have to eat them. Whereas like the ice creams and things like at a push, if I had to eat them, I would eat them, and stuff like that. So there will be some more challenges. So I might post a video, because I just kind of think like I want more people to see it. Definitely. Yes, big shout to Connor, big shout to Lee. What you're saying. If for those of you who don't know, I came off my motorbike today. I slipped off in the wet. Luckily, the bike's all right. It just suffered a little bit of a scrape on the fuel tank, which was a scrape that was already there. It's just been made worse. Um, but basically, I'm here. My arm aches a bit. I've got some little cuts and bruises on my leg, but there's nothing. I didn't need the hospital or anything. It was a first aid kit attended to it. I'm just a little bit sore. I'm a little bit stiff. But yeah, that is literally it. I got back on the bike. I carried on riding it once I checked the bike was all right. It's all part of being a biker. Unfortunately, like if you own a bike and you never come off it, like there's something wrong with you. Like because sometimes you can't help it. It's not always your fault. Sometimes there's something in the road that catches you out. You're balancing on two wheels. And when it's wet and you're trying to slow down on two wheels, it's a lot harder than trying to stop in a car. And any little thing on the road that makes you slam on, having to slam on in the wet is just so much harder than basically doing it in the dry and stuff. So it happens. We're bikers. We get back up. We get back on our bikes and we go. I was probably only doing about 15, 20 mile when I came off. I was slowing down for a junction and I just saw something like like a rocky sort of little stone thing in the road. And I tried to avoid hitting it with my wheel, so I like slammed on to slow down, so I didn't hit it, and then it was just wet, and I just lost balance. Luckily, some people came to help me, and I'm still here to live and tell the tale. And as daft as it sounds, like if I was to go out crashing on a motorbike, like there would be worse things. Like I know that sounds real like cliche and it sounds a little bit like insensitive, but like I come from a biking family. My granddad used to race them. And my granddad raced around the Isle of Man back in the 60s. My dad was brought up going to race meetings. My dad's had his fair share of coming off motorbikes and breaking his leg and things like that. So, it would kind of be in like family tradition, if I was to snuff it coming off of a motorbike. And although I don't want to obviously come off a motorbike and die, I'm just thinking like, if the day was to come where I had to go, I'd rather do that than like be knocked over by a car or catch an illness or something. Like I think if I'm gonna go, I'd love to go out doing something I loved. Behind the DJ decks collapsing, riding a bike and coming off would be, for me, because at least I did it doing something I loved rather than sat in a chair fading away, losing my mind, getting worse by the day, getting iller by the day, having less control of my life. I'd rather something just happened and that was it, boom, that kind of thing. But doing something I loved. So there we go. But anyway, that is going to do it for the stream. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to share. I'm gonna get back on to FL Studio or whatever I'm doing. Hit the hay soon. And yeah, tomorrow is another day. So we'll see you